Did you know Variety, the children's charity, is the entertainment charity started by a group of show business people who found an abandoned baby in a theatre way back in 1928. These kind-hearted performers raised so much money to help the lost child that they began helping other children, and Variety, the children's charity, was born. Read the full story and support the entertainers charity that supports kids in need today. Visit variety.org.au. You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Maury Morgan.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What's a bucket list?
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
Lee Ton first tried his hand at stand-up comedy in 2008. 10 years later, with a couple of comedy courses under his belt, Lee has found himself performing at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, or MICF, headlining with Richard Stubbs, and specially cast for a reality stand-up comedy TV show, Is This Thing On? Lee's recent success has been sudden, but as you'll hear in this School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast, he took a considerable break from comedy to raise a family before returning to the craft only 2 years ago. This break from comedy has helped him mature, gain material, and ultimately return to his passion at full speed. And if you're interested in learning stand-up comedy, then join the June 24 to 28 course in Melbourne with the Nelson Twins. Or, alternatively, if you'd like to become a reality TV celebrity, applications to be a comedy student in Is This Thing On are still open. Visit the School of Hard Knock Knocks website at www.schoolofhardknockknocks.com to apply. Applications close in a week. Now, here's my interview with Lee Ton.
And I have to say that being Asian trying to break into Australian TV and film is incredibly hard. Very, very hard. Because there's only two jobs for us out there. There's Vietnamese drug dealer. Then there's Korean drug dealer too. I did go to an audition recently and they gave me two lines. It was, how could you do this to me? I'm so disappointed. So I get up there and then I'm like, how could you do this to me? I'm so disappointed. You know, I dropped that Oscar shit, right? And then the casting director's like, great, that was great, but could you do it again as if you were Asian? What she means by that, I have no idea, but I really want the job, so I do it the only way I know how. How could you do this to me? I'm so disappointed. Do you like some cocaine? And I got the job. Yeah, you might have seen me. It was an episode of Married at First Sight. It's where I played jealous Vietnamese ex-boyfriend / guy who provided heroin. But my parents, they never taught me Chinese growing up. Mostly because I'm Vietnamese. But also, my parents only spoke two languages fluently. It was Vietnamese, obviously, and shitty English. Which is okay, because that shitty English still entertains me to this day. I started an office job recently, and my dad comes up to me and he's like, hey boy, at your new job, do you have the fuck machine? A what? You know the fuck machine? No. And Dad, I don't know if I want to ask you this, but what is a fuck machine? You know the machine, you put in the paper, you press the button, and then you send the paper to the other fuck machine. Dad, you mean fax machine. You're saying it wrong. Dad, what the fuck's I say? You think you're so smart, you can't even cure the cancer. You're not 12 anymore, motherfucker. All right, thanks a lot, guys. My name's Lee.
Good evening, Lee. Lee Ton, how are you, mate?
Pretty good. How are you, Murray?
Oh, very good. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule. You have been a
Always a pleasure.
busy comedian this week. You just finished a performance supporting Richard Stubbs.
I have. The legend. Someone I watched when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. And then, just got to share the stage with him, which is,
Fantastic. Yeah, it was. You were the middle bracket at the School of Hard Knock Knocks graduation, and Richard was the headliner later in the same evening, but people were very impressed by and I think you did just over 10 minutes.
Yeah, we've been like
Maybe
that.
15. It was very good. This is something you've been working towards, obviously performing alongside the great Richard Stubbs. You have to lift your game. How long have you been writing this material and polishing it?
So probably, to be honest, altogether, probably about maybe 10, 12 months.
Yeah, right.
Something like that. So I mean, like the, standard process of putting some stuff on paper and then trying it out and seeing what works. And then finally, when I got to this, I put together something I knew that was pretty tight and clean, and got up there and it worked.
Perfect. And when you got the offer to perform as really one of the headliners, I mean, not the headliner on the night, but one of the pictures on the main poster, what was going through your head?
It was pretty amazing. I mean, I feel like, things are happening, like, for me, really. Like, I kind of started this comedy journey again last August, and then it's kind of it's really proven to myself that I really can do this.
Well, you've kind of mentioned, there's no secret, you've done the School of Hard Knock Knocks comedy course yourself back in August, but let's take a step back, way back, 10 years actually, because I believe your comedy passion or interest was sparked off when you did a comedy course, was it 2008?
That's right. Yeah, back in 2008. Obviously, the comedy dream started before that, and then I spotted a comedy course that was run by Jed Cogley, but back in the day.
Yep.
And then I thought, I'll have a crack. I've always been interested in doing stand-up comedy. Did his course, which was was really good. Like I got up on stage and made a whole bunch of people laugh again.
Yep.
And then it kind of stopped. Like a lot of things happened. Lost contact with the other students that did the course at the time as well. And,
right.
And then
Did you get married and have a kid in the middle?
Yeah, that's right. And then it kind of felt like, I should have just had heaps of material, but then time and everything got in the way, busy schedules.
Yeah.
And then last August came around and I saw the ad for School of Hard Knock Knocks. I thought, what? I really, really loved doing it back then. I really want to make it as my career. So I'll do this. And now it's just kind of kicked up from that day. So thanks, mate.
Oh, well, fantastic. And you're very passionate about comedy because I think you also did a screenwriting course in comedy with Tim Ferguson.
Yeah, that's right. So he's got the Cheeky Monkey.
Yep.
So he did a 2-day weekend intensive about comedy writing.
Yep.
And, obviously I'd like to fancy my comedy writing and seeing any way that I could develop it. So I did that 2-day intensive course, which is great because Tim Ferguson's also a comedy legend. It was great to be guided by him. And then that course was something, but it didn't really meet my expectations in terms of writing stand up or performing stand up either.
Okay.
But still was great to learn about from him too.
Yeah, right.
And he's obviously a very funny guy.
He is, absolutely. I've been a massive fan ever since I saw him live at RMIT University. I think it was 94 or 95 when the Doug Anthonys were. The three original Doug Anthonys were there, and look, his writing is perfect for writing scripts, writing stage plays, and stand up. And his personality. I mean, if you've ever known the Doug Anthony All Stars, their stand up is very. It's more like musical theatre than anything. It's not your traditional stand-up, so I can understand that. Now, you did the course, you did the School of Hard Knock Knocks course back in August, and we saw something in you. And in April, you came back and you performed at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival and in the Best Of show. I believe this has been a bit of a long dream of yours, a long-term goal of yours to perform at MICF?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I suppose every single stand-up comedian, especially in Melbourne, but all across Australia, the dream would be to perform at, Melbourne International Comedy Festival. I think we mentioned every night's the third biggest festival in the world. So it's obviously a massive goal to perform at it. And when I was thinking about it before, I never thought that I could, personal self-doubt comes into it. Could I, register and do my own comedy festival show? And then, when you guys offered for me to do it, it just kind of blew me away. I kind of couldn't believe that this goal of mine that I've been holding on to for 10 plus years was about to come true. So massive props to you guys for holding it for me as well as all the other best of.
Well, you were one of the few that we had performed twice. And so you had an interesting audience on both of those nights. One of the nights, I think it was the first one, not many of your friends came, if it maybe not anyone came, because I know they all came the following night. You could just tell by the colour of the audience.
I'll give you. We'll see. The first night I had a few people come, which were from work.
Oh, okay.
And then the second night, all of my Asian friends came. So there was a bit of a difference there. But definitely different crowds on both nights. More of my closer Asian friends and family were on the second night.
On night two. Yeah. Well, there's a couple of videos up on your website. That is tonoflaughs.com. That's right. Good little pun there. Right. And the videos are actually from the first night, which I assume is some of your workmates, but almost none of your family and Vietnamese and Asian friends. Is that my understanding?
Yeah. So they missed out on the Friday, because the Friday nights are a harder night to get them out because, they've had their day at work and stuff, and then they just kind of go back.
Yeah, sure.
But then Saturday night came out.
They came out. I was impressed because you're performing to an audience that isn't your close friends. So when you do perform to close friends, obviously it's warmer. Obviously they know the idiosyncrasies of you. They know some of the personal stories and the personal journey. So they're more involved. But you got a lot of laughs. I mean, the videos that you can see on that website are cut to the audience laughing, and the front row are just almost rolling in the aisles. You had them at all the jokes, the language. I guess Vietnamese culture since the early 70s has been really integrated slowly, and it's probably now a major feature of Australian, certainly Melbourne culture, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The food, the language, the tone, the tonage that you do so well when talking about your father and mother.
Yeah, so I mean the best feedback I get is obviously from that bit that I do about my dad. And everyone who comes up to me afterwards and just says, you sound just like my mate from work who's from Vietnam, like all this. So it's nice to hear that I can do it very well. I've grown up with it.
Yep.
And it resonates with them. Which is fantastic.
Yeah. And for those of listening to this thinking, what on earth is he talking about? Well, at the beginning of this interview, there's going to be a little bit of your jokes. So I haven't actually selected which one we're going to use, but I think probably we're going to have to use the fax machine one just to prove a point.
Yeah, perfect. It's probably my best hit. So,
I love it.
Go for the good.
I love it. I love accents, and over the years we've gone from the wogs out of work sort of branding and the language that comes with that, but that's almost become mainstream Australia now, and it's been integrated into our lexicon, and the effies of the language that the effies of Acropolis now, for example, that tonage is all gone. It's boring now, isn't it? Whereas at least we still have Chinese and Vietnamese.
Yeah, it is very normal. It seems like they're totally Aussie now. Whereas I almost kind of see a cultural spotlight that's coming up for Vietnamese and Chinese Australians these days. I mean. Maybe even going back to Kevin Rudd and how he came about to know all about Chinese, and then a lot more about me. I feel like I'm starting to get represented a bit more, which is great too.
Yeah. Well, that's great because you're not only a comedian, but you're also an actor, and you've been in a number of well-known TV shows. I mean, probably the best, most well-known is Neighbours, which is filmed in Nunawading. Is that? Although, did you film that in Nunawading, or was it in studio?
That was at the studio in Nunawading, which is fortunately very close to my house. So, my call time was maybe 11 o'clock, and I can kind of just rolled out of bed maybe like an hour before, and then just, got there real quick. So that was great.
Yep.
I have a funny story about, because they asked me back for a second time to reprise my character as Officer Miles Doherty, because it's a very typical Asian name. Yeah,
Irish, Vietnamese.
yeah, it totally came through with my accent. But the second time they asked me to come was the day after my son was born.
Yeah.
So we came back from the hospital, and people, came over to our house to congratulate us and everything. Obviously, had no sleep because, my son Hunter was born at 1 a.m. So practically running on zero sleep. And then the following day, I had to film for Neighbours. And it was a struggle. But they did it. Got my scene out, and was happy with that.
Were you playing a meth-addicted police officer, or did it help having no sleep for the depth of that character?
Well, I don't know if that came through, but that was my backstory that I put in the back of my voice.
You added that.
Yeah,
right.
And then they never asked me back. But I'm still on the contract.
They never.
But I know it's funny with Neighbours because I remember when the first Asian family moved into Ramsay Street,
right?
And then their biggest story arc was that one of the neighbors' dogs went missing, and since the new Asian families moved in, and they definitely knew it was those guys. And,
my God!
Yeah,
was it the 80s when racism was just vogue?
Probably.
What on earth?
Like late 80s, early 90s, something like that. Yeah, that's how we were represented back in the day.
Oh, that's appalling. I grew up in the next suburb, and I think it was 1990 or 1991 when the first group of Singaporean and Malaysians and Taiwanese came over, and that was sort of the introduction. Glen Waverley, anyone who knows Melbourne knows Glen Waverley is now one of the best places for Asian food, and specifically Chinese food. But I think it was the Singaporeans and Malaysians that were the first to get in there and really make waves in the 90s. But then perhaps in the last 5 to 10 years, it's been more the mainland Chinese moving into the area and putting up the prices. So yeah, Ramsay Street. I lived in, just for reference, I lived in the next suburb. My parents sold to a Shanghainese family. The next door neighbours were from Nanjing, also in China. On the other side, they were Sri Lankans. 2 doors down, they were Malaysian. 2 more doors down, they were Chinese Shanghai as well. So Ramsay Street characters, look, they really need to represent the reality of Nunawading, don't they?
That's right. They're kind of like sneaking up on us, but every now and again we move in, and then I'm also Miles Doherty.
Miles Doherty, good on you, mate. I love that. I guess the problem with Neighbours is it's meant to be a stereotype for English people to believe in, so that they can go through their somewhat miserable lives with bad weather and bad food, and think that there's still some way when they retire they can come out to beautiful Nunawading.
Yeah, that's it. I thought of it that way, but yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah, it's really just just keep them motivated, keep them working. Well, we joke, of course, the British are lovely people. Not to be racist, but I can say that because my mother is actually British born. So I don't get, as a white male, I don't get to say that very often, but I'm going to throw it out now. I'm part British, so screw you. Now, you've got a couple of things coming up, and one of them's very big. On a smaller level, I know you've got, you're doing Punchlines Comedy Club. You've got something coming up with Ben Horowitz, the co-founder of the School of Hard Knocks. You'll actually be headlining with him on that night.
That's right. I'm new to this phrase, headlining, with my name next to it, but it's good to be in that position now.
Yeah, not just your name, but also your face as well.
Yeah, definitely my face, my strange Asian face. Like I was seeing this the other day. Like whenever I see these posters that come out, and it's pretty rare actually. Pretty rare Asian faces are showing up on these night posters, which is
well, that's it. Making inroads.
Good for my people. I hope that if my face shows a bit more, that encourages other people of of Asian cultures and stuff to pursue this. If there's anything else holding them back, then an Asian face is good.
Yeah, look, you're a very funny guy, so that's why I think you're getting your face on these posters, not only because of a different face, but interestingly, you're going to be at the Hampton RSL Club on the 20th of July. That was a little ad there. Ben Horowitz is one of is supporting you, or vice versa. I'm not sure. Lee Ton. It's an RSL club. Of course, RSL is Returned Servicemen's League, and I'm just wondering. You're Vietnamese. Are you going to go for the jugular? Are you going to make any war references at all, or anything to do with? Because there might be some people in there that have actually served in the Vietnam War. What are you going to do to address that elephant in the room?
Well, I'm hoping that if I probably will, but do my Vietnamese accent jokes, then it doesn't cause some onset of PTSD or anything like that. Hopefully the jokes are funny enough for them to get over it. But yeah, I've got a few weeks to prepare. I should do some war jokes. I used to work in Bowen, which has lots of older folk, so I can do some old people jokes. But I don't know. I feel like my jokes aren't really specified to any class or anything like that. So hopefully it translates over to them. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be interesting. I find I was in the army myself for 5 years, and often we would have Japanese would come over because, of course, Japan's on our side now, and they would come over. The delegates would come over, and we'd meet. I was in the medical corps, so we would have the Japanese speak, and some of the older soldiers were so hospitable, so welcoming of the Japanese. There was no hard feelings at all. I think obviously, horses for courses, different people react different ways. And of course, it was only the North Vietnamese that were the trouble, right? It was the South Vietnamese, which I assume your family had something to do with the South Vietnamese because you're in Australia.
Yes,
otherwise, this would be a long distance phone call. That's right. And that's exciting, and that's, as I said, on the 20th of July in Hampton, and hopefully we'll get about 100 people or more to that event. Now, the big one is you've been cast and you're playing yourself. It's a TV show. It's a documentary, so you're not acting. You're not who is it? Doherty. You're not playing.
Not Miles Doherty.
Not Doherty.
Vietnamese or Korean drug dealer. It's a revelation in my career here.
No, you're playing Lee Ton, who grew up on Victoria Street in Richmond, and then moved to an eastern suburb of Melbourne. Got married, had a kid. Yeah. You are going to be in Is This Thing On, a TV show about 10 newbie stand-up comedians on a journey over 6 days where they get coached by some of Australia's top comedians, people like Jack Levi, also known as Elliot Goblet, and Chris Franklin, the bogan of stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Oh, big one. Now, obviously, I'm involved in that heavily, so I know that you were selected by the director, Stig, because of your passion for comedy, as mentioned, from 2008, but also as a bit of as a reference point for someone who's been in the comedy space, been doing open mics, been performing, but hasn't quite cracked it yet, compared to a couple of people who are just maybe fresh newbies, or even some bucket list tickers. What do you think are going to be some of the challenges for you over the 6 days, and it's a full day each day, that you'll be in this show?
I don't know. Well, I know there might be some interesting challenges that would be part of the show. I guess also having a bit of a head start on some people, then there's the feeling of kind of having to prove myself a little bit. So then that's a bit of a barrier. But it's all about the process of making people laugh and fine tuning writing and everything. So all those barriers aside, we all get to the same goal.
When you did the course back in August, who was your coach, your comedy coach?
So we had Chris Franklin as well.
Yep.
and Steve Hughes.
Oh, Steve Hughes, yes. There's a good chance we haven't cast Steve Hughes yet, but because he's currently enjoying life in Mexico, but he is definitely someone who might make a cameo appearance in the show when it gets done. So yeah, Chris Franklin will be there, and I think he's doing episode 4. And that episode, they're going to go to a radio station. There is, and I think you know this, so hopefully it's not too much of a shock. You might want to sit down, but there is talk that you might be jumping out of an aeroplane.
I heard a rumor of that, and I have been, pooping my pants at the thought of it ever since that was revealed to me. But I found out that there are, adult diapers, I think they're called Depends, that exist.
Yeah, that's right.
So I could put those on.
Are you afraid of heights? Is this something that could be a showstopper?
I could cry. I probably will. I was in Macau, and they've got like the world's biggest bungee jump there, and I did not have the balls to do it, even though my friend was going to push me to do it. So now, for comedy, I'll do it for comedy. That's how much I love comedy. I'll jump out of the plane for comedy.
You'll jump out of it for a laugh, for our benefit. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, that's right. Someone's going to laugh, so it's worth it.
Well, for those listening and who are interested in to know more, this is ITTO. Is This Thing On? It's a TV show that's being filmed in July, as I mentioned, with some of the names include Chris Franklin, Brad Oakes, Jack Levi, Elliot Goblet. We're also doing some deals with a couple more comedians. Mayumi Nabetsu, a Japanese comedian, is coming on board as well, and another person that's soon to be announced. It's going to be filmed and hopefully will be on one of the networks in Australia to be watched and enjoyed, and to see what goes through the mind of a newbie stand-up comedian. Hopefully not the planet Earth at 200 kilometres per hour. Hopefully the parachutes work. But not that I'm trying to scare you. It will be thoroughly enjoyable. I've done it, by the way, just for reference, and I'm here to talk. I've done stand-up comedy now and parachuting, skydiving.
So you're invincible.
That's true. Yeah, people have tried. Well, fantastic. Well, Lee Ton, you are an up-and-coming comedian on the rise. You've got lots of gigs happening at the moment. You've got your own website. Again, if someone wants to get in contact with you, someone wants to book you for a MC or wants to get you to perform as a headline act, how do they get in contact with you?
So you just want to go to my website, as you mentioned before, so www.tonoflaughs.com. So that's TONOFLAUGHS.com. And that has the links to the Facebook and Instagram and everything. But yeah, primarily the website would be great because there's a nice little contact us form there.
There is. And some videos of you talking. And, eventually this podcast will be there too, just for reference.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Excellent. Well, it is an evening. Thank you very much for your time. Lee, I'll leave you to ponder your life's decision of agreeing to be pushed out of an aeroplane.
Yeah, I'm taking you with me.
Yeah, no worries. I don't know where I'll be at this time. I might be on the ground just directing at this point. Thank you so much for your time today, and thanks very much. You're a very funny guy. Again, get on to tonoflaughs.com and check out Lee and his work, and make sure you book him for your next event.
Thanks for having me, Murray.
Thanks, mate.